Hey everybody, Rob Rosenberger here. I want to do a video for you. It's kind of a follow-up, a reply to Graham Cluley at Sophos. Cluley did a really great video on how to do passwords. And we're going to do this in one take. There's kind of a viral thing going on right now where people are doing certain complex things in one take. Like, for example, there's a really great video running around viral right now about a guy who does 100 guitar riffs, 100 famous guitar riffs in one take. Fantastic. I happen to hail from my kid's sister married into an Irish family. There's an Irish guy who's got a video out of doing 10 shots in one take. Woo, that's a lot of whiskey. And there's any number of these things. So we're going to do this in one take. But now Graham, Sophos is kind of a laid-back, kind of a Britishy, kind of staid, kind of stoic people. So Graham was running around in a cardigan sweater and a nice popped collar. And screw that. I'm going to do this naked. So hopefully we won't get an X-rated video here. But believe it or not, I am naked. And I'm doing this on July 4th, so we're going to have a kind of an American, let's eat lots of brats theme to it. We're going to have some sort of a military theme to this. And what we're going to do is we're going to construct passwords, but we're going to do what Graham didn't do. Now, Graham knows this. He wrote a short video. He did a short video on how to do good passwords that are relatively easy to remember, but that hackers would find difficult to deal with. Now, one of the things that Graham talked about was you could use places like LastPass or OnePass or any number of other places where you can store all of your passwords with just memorizing one password. There are certain people who can't do that. By the way, my voice kind of sounds a little bit weird. The reason is I have a dental flipper. I lost a tooth. It took 30 years. There was this kid named David Sheehan. He was my favorite enemy. He drove a Starsky and Hutch kind of car. I drove a little 250 inline 6 Nova, and I would beat him routinely when he would try and chase me around the block and things like that. And one day he just got tired of me and punched me in the face 3 times. And he split my lip in 2, and he knocked one of my teeth loose, one of my teeth up on the front. That one healed back in, but it died. And then they had to do a root canal on it. Later they had to put a crown on it. And last year it broke in half. And they cemented it. And they said, okay, this is going to be a temporary measure. Well, I had it finally pulled out. And I got a whole bunch of bone graft in there right now to fix everything up so that I can put a post in there. So, hey, David Sheehan, it took you 30 years, man, but you knocked my tooth out. Congratulations. Anyway, where was I? Ah, yes, passwords. We're going to construct passwords in a manner that we can easily construct the most difficult password that no hacker can realistically break, but that we can easily remember. This is right along the lines of XKCD. How do you build a password that is difficult for people to break, but is easy for people to remember? And that's where we're going to come in. This is a really complex password. It's the number 11, brought to you by the letter D. And it constructs this password. Notice the number 11 right up at the front here. How did we get there? Well, what we need, if you watched the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, there's a cipher. And what we're going to use is we're going to use this cipher. We're going to use the Declaration of Independence. Now, I could choose any number of transcripts. I need to go to the pool. There's a pool at this RV park, and I am just dying to go out there because there's lots of beautiful 40-year-old women. I don't care about the young girls. They mean nothing to me. It's the divorcees in this park that really get to me. And, of course, there's a bunch of women here who are probably, frustrated by their hubbies, and I could fix that. Anyway, I'm going to cut that out of that take. 3, 2, 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to build passwords from, here from the Declaration of Independence. But we're not going to start at the beginning, not with the we the people forming a more perfect 4-7 year. We can't use Lincoln's Gettysburg Address because we know that Lincoln wrote at least 5 different versions. So we can't choose a specific one. But we do know that the Declaration of Independence is very, very specific. And if you look here, we're going to archives.gov. This is the official transcript, complete with punctuation and correct spelling according to the document. You could also go out to Wikipedia. It's exact on Wikipedia. You could use the King James Bible. You could use the King Hiram version of the Torah. I'm sure Ross Greenberg, the original virus expert, is going to write to me and go, that was funny. Anyway, We could use any religious tome, we could use any particular document that everybody knows very intrinsically. This just happens to be the one on July 4th that everybody's talking about. At least according to the Daily Show, it's still widely regarded in some circles. It's still highly regarded. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 11. And what 11 is it's the first indictment against King George. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. That's what the first number 1 means. And what the second number 1 means is it means the first letter of each word. Graham Cluley did this. And what we're going to do is we're going to create, he has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. And necessary for the public good. Yeah, that's right. There we go. And you notice here, what we're trying to do, Graham Cluley talked about this, and this wasn't necessarily the greatest thing in the world for everybody. Graham got this right, but it doesn't work for everybody. If you're in the United States Department of Defense, you can't go to LastPass and put your password out there. You can't go to OnePass and put your passwords out there, especially your classified passwords. If you've got a CypherNet password or a JWix password and you're storing them in LastPass, you're going to lose your security clearance. They probably won't court-martial you because there is no real punishment, but they'll take your clearance away, which is effectively a punishment, but it's a non-judicial one. So you can't do that. But what you do need to do is you need to come up with complex passwords. And here's the point, soldiers. A complex password that you can easily memorize, but which the Nazis who run your network can't figure out. What they see is the number 11. What you see is all of this. You have to know the cipher. They don't. Now, here's the important thing. They can't come at you with a baseball bat and break your fingers trying to get you to tell you what the cipher is. No, it's the Declaration of Independence, and I start with the first indictment against King George. Wherever it's he has erected a multitude of new offices. No, that's number 10. If you've got network Nazis and they're breaking your fingers with baseball bats, you've got a way bigger problem. Probably that's the Al-Qaeda people doing that to you. And again, you got a way bigger problem. But if the Al-Qaeda people only find this, they're probably going to think he's CIA, which is exactly what you want from the network Nazis. You don't want the network Nazis to see this. But guess what? You could put this up on your cubicle wall anywhere in the world, and nobody's going to know what it is. What is that? It's the number 11. It's brought to me by the number D, you moron. That's how you do it. So what we're going to do is we create this password right here. But let's go ahead and start with another one. What if your network gods decide that you can't start with a number? Now, there are any number of websites where you cannot use a number up in the front. And the reason has to do with the little-known concept known as drop table. Well, we better not let them be able to put, special characters and numbers up in the front there because they might be able to drop our tables and screw us up. So what we're going to do is we're going to force them to use a password that starts with a letter, not with a number. And that's where we get A51. The A in the front tells us that we have to put the letters in the front and the numbers in the back. Remember, unlike Graham Cluley, who got this right, we are trying to assuage the network gods, not the hackers. We're not trying to break this. We're not trying to keep the hackers from breaking us. What we're trying to do is keep the network gods happy with whatever limitations they put on us with their DoD has a supposedly secure password environment. That's not true, and it's never been true. It hasn't been true since it hasn't been true since the Wimix era. We lost it. Anyway, so we've got Alpha 51. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasion of the rights of the people. The alpha tells us that the 51 has to go at the end, that the A has to go, that the alpha letters have to go in front. And this is what it looks like. He has, where is it? He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. Period. We got a full stop and then the number 51. So Alpha 51 means start at the end with the numbers. We go to the end with the numbers. But what if we've got something different? What if our website does not accept punctuation? There are a lot that don't accept punctuation. And again, it comes down to the drop table problem usually. So they say, okay, you can have letters and numbers, but you can't have special characters because we just aren't capable of building a complex password for you. But you do want to build a complex password. So we're going to take the 8th indictment against King George. We're going to take the first letter, and we're not going to use the punctuation. And let's look for the 8th. He, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope. He has obstructed the administration of justice. That's what that is. So, 81. He has obstructed. Where is it? He has obstructed the administration of justice. Notice the capital A and the capital J. There's no comma right there. By refusing his assent to laws. Notice that A and L are capitalized. For establishing judiciary powers. The capital J and the capital P. So, that's different. Well, we're still on one take, but apparently there's a difference between Wikipedia and there's a difference between archives.gov. You better know where you're going. And you notice I've got a control H right there. I accidentally put the period there, but remember, it's 81 exclamation point. Now, what's the exclamation point, Rob? Well, I'm glad you asked. 81 exclamation point. In the old days, I used to work for NATO intelligence as a computer programmer. That's what I was originally trained as, and the exclamation point is used quite often as a not symbol. So we're not going to use punctuation. That's really what this is. Now, those of you who actually think that I worked in the CIA, if I had ever worked in the CIA, this would have been the lecture that I would have given them somewhere around the March time frame of 2000 on how to build adequate passwords. I wasn't the one that constructed that lecture, though. So we've got an interesting password right there. Well, what if we can't use anything? Take a look at this one. This is 01, lowercase x, exclamation point, M8. What's this mean? Well, it means we're going to use the 10th indictment against King George. If we wanted to, we could go with hex, and this could have been the letter A. I already used the letter A. But realistically, you can get 30 to 35 passwords just by stopping at the number 10. We're going to use the first character of each indictment in the 10th indictment. We're not going to be able to use the 01, because the X tells us no 01. There's no numbers in here, and we can't use the exclamation point says we can't use any good characters, and where a maximum character length on this password is 8. So let's go to number 10, and that is, he has erected a multitude of new offices, and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people, and eat out their substance. But we can only use the first 8 characters, and we can't use anything special. So here it is. There's no numbers. There's just 8 characters. He has erected a multitude of new offices. Notice the capital N and the capital O. This passes even the most stringent requirements for people who demand upper and lowercase. We've got 3 uppercase and 5 lowercase. And remember, up here, if you were government, we've got 2 numbers, 2 capitals, 2 lowercase, and 2 punctuation. Whoops, that's not that one. There it is. And 2 punctuation marks. We've got all the things necessary to build a DoD password to DoD stringent specifications, and it's super duper long. But this one tells us that we have to create something like this. Now that looks complex, doesn't it? That's tough to memorize, but you don't have to memorize it. You don't have to memorize the numbers and the codes that you're using for your cipher. You just have to know what the cipher means. You just have to be able to read this. This can be in your pocketbook. It could be in your wallet. Things like this are in my wallet. And by the way, yeah, there are some very important passwords that I keep in my wallet in this form, but it's not with the Declaration of Independence. I use a different document. And it's not a religious tome either. That's too obvious to me. But here we create, with this complex cipher, we create a very easy to work with password. And again, we don't have to memorize what this password is. We just have to be able to read this. This is something that Graham Cluley didn't actually go into in the short amount of time that he did it. But what if we need to do something other than the number 1? What if we decide to go with the number 2? Well, we're going to go with the 10th indictment against King George, and we're going to go with the second letter of each indictment. So, he has erected a multitude of new offices, comma, and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people, comma, and eat out their substance, period. And I think I forgot a comma in here. Yeah, I forgot a comma. So, but this wouldn't be correct because I forgot a comma. Oh, woe is me. Oh, and I got to put my password in. And it just went blank right there. Oh, well. Oh, my goodness. Rob on Netbook 2. That means that I'm using Linux. Actually, I'm using a 2-year-old version of Linux. It's a 2-year-old version of Ubuntu. It keeps telling me that it wants to update, but I won't let it. Why? Because I want to see how good Linux works without being updated. You know you can get me. So, oh, and my login is Rob, just so that you know there. Now, we're going to use O2. He has erected a multitude of new offices. Notice here I've got a space. He has
He, the second letter is E. I use a capital E because there's a capital H there. Has erected A. The letter A is only one character in a word. So anytime that I've got like 02, 03, 04, there's a space right there. You can actually use spaces in your passwords for the most part. If you can construct a complex password, they'll let you use. Ooh, look at that! Isn't that beautiful? Oh man, can you see my reflection? I'm sweating. I am just. Oh, I have a huge gay following. I'm a lot like Ryan Seacrest and Cher and Bill Shatner. No, not Bill Shatner. George Takei. Yeah. So anyway, and David Sheehan. So hey, Dave. Let's see here. Where was I? We're still on one take. Remember? 3, 2, 1. I love that because that tells you, oh, but he's gonna edit it. No, I'm not. But we've created just from the number 02, knowing our cipher, the 10th indictment against King George, the second letter of each one. He has erected a multitude of new offices, comma, dot, dot, dot. And this creates a huge password. You just have to be able to read 02 and know what your cipher is. Ooh, but it gets worse. What if we have to create a complex password where it's 02, it's the 10th indictment against King George. We're going to use the second character of each letter, but we can't use the number 02 itself. We can't use spaces. That's how we read this. We can't use exclamation marks and other punctuation, and the character length can only be 8 characters long. 02 X space exclamation point M8. That's what this is. 02, again, I want to say this because this is complex, but remember, you don't have to memorize this, you just have to be able to read it. This is in my wallet, things like this. So if I wanted to log on to LastPass, for example, all I have to do is put the cipher in, put the code in for my password, and I have to remember what if I can't remember my LastPass password, I just go read the cipher and extract the password from the cipher. So 02, the 10th indictment against King George, the second letter of each one. But we can't use the number 02 either at the front or the back. We can't use spaces in this password. We can't use punctuation in this password, special characters, and we maximize our numbers to 8. As complex as this looks, it's written into my wallet, and this is all it creates. Earmuffs. E-A-R-U-F-E-F-N. He has erected a multitude of new offices. That looks like a password. People could type that in all day long, and they don't know what it is. And they'll never be able to get into it. And you can tell them, that's not my password. That's the code that gets me to my password, assuming that you know your cipher. And that creates the password for you. And now I'm out. So, what have we learned here? We've learned that we can very easily create very complex passwords that, according to XKCD, are very easy for us to memorize. There's nothing to memorize here because we've already written it down. But, and here's the big but, it's difficult for the password crackers to crack it. Now, does this mean that the password crackers could go out and take, like, for example, the King James Bible and take the first character of each verse and the first punctuation and then create a whole bunch of passwords and then hash them out and come up with all sorts of things, and then you would be able to be cracked? The answer is yes, they could do that. They could do it with the Bible, they could do it with the Torah, they could do it with the Quran, they could do it with the Declaration of Independence, they can do it with the preamble to the Constitution, they could do it with all sorts of things. But the key is what Graham told you to do, Graham Sophos at Cluley, what Graham Cluley of Sophos told you to do is how to build a simple password. What I'm telling you to do here is how to build a simple password that your Nazis up in the network shop will accept, and they'll say, oh, that's complex, that's beautiful, that's really fantastic, and you're going to pass your CISSP or whatever. This is how they do it in the clandestine world. Did I just say that? Yeah, I did. This is how they do it in the clandestine world. Remember what I tell you. If they're beating you on the fingers with baseball bats, trying to get the cipher from you, you've got way bigger problems than what your password is. You understand me? Way bigger problems. So, I'm Rob Rosenberger. I'm totally nude, unlike Mr. laid-back, stuffy cardigan with a popped collar, Graham Cluley. And this is my reply to him. Graham, you did a fantastic job. This is just part 2. I'm Rob Rosenberger. Visit us out at vmyths, vmyths.com. Truth about computer security hysteria. Be there or be scared. David.